inside the history of Battleship Cove on the USS Massachusetts. I'm your host, GM1 Tom Lowney, USN retired. Dr. John Scholes here, our guru of information, and he still surprises me with a lot of information that continually surprises me. It's good to have you back again, John.
My pleasure, Tom.
Well, we're inside the gun room, left gun of turret 3. Now, the guns are designated left, right, and center gun because you're not going to go port and starboard because the turret is a rotating structure, so it doesn't make sense to be doing that. So as you're facing forward of the gun, it's left, right, and center. So we're on the left side of the gun here. Now, in our earlier descriptions of the barrels and setup, we were talking about the gun housing and the gun slide, and that way it balances the weight out on the trunnions, which would be just forward here, the pivot points of the turret's gun system, and it's balanced with this weighted, and it's designed and built and weighted to balance the gun at its specific positions. So as you can see the face of the gun, the barrel is in here, all right, and this is the barrel section, and you can actually see the barrel numbers here. Now this will tell you, if you want to look at all the information, that this is from the U.S. Naval Gun Factory in Washington Navy Yard, not Waterville, New York. That's different.
And it's Washington, D.C., not Washington State.
Bingo. So it's a 16-inch gun, Mark 6, Mod 1, and gun number 303. Okay, and it gives you the weight of the gun and its manufacturing date. It's 1941. So this gun is probably one of the original guns that she was built with. So, and you have the other information here from a superintendent GP inspected by CPB. Not familiar with those abbreviations.
And I don't know what his initials would translate to. Unfortunately, I'm not quite that good.
No, neither am I.
But that is actually the initials of the inspector.
Right. So you got the actual weight of the barrel here in pounds. So it's 188,070 pounds.
And that's about 84 tons.
There you go. So excuse the mess. I haven't gotten back. The condensate has done its job. I need to come back and clean the gun. But that's another thing to do. Maintenance on a battleship never stops. So we'll get back to that. As you can see, the cylinders here on the gun, all right, this is the counter recoil system. The actual recoil cylinder, which is the oil cylinder, is a massive cylinder underneath the gun. Now, if you watch videos, when they show it, down underneath in the center, forward of the breech area, is a huge oil piston. Now, the gun, when it fires, it travels back, as we said, 4 feet. So in 4 feet, that would be back to here. Now, obviously, we're not going to be here in the gun room when the gun fires, and anybody would be. This is a maintenance platform, just to let you know. It's put in here to do, i.e. maintenance and or tour guide for me. John is actually standing on the gun cap's platform.
And I actually would not be here when the gun was firing. I would have actually stepped up and gone onto this platform where I had thrown a switch to indicate that the gun was ready to fire.
Right. So we have a recoil system and a counter recoil system. This just acts similar to what you have in a car, right? So you'd have air and oil. Air is what is the flexible, which allows it to be compressed, and the PSI increases, and then the oil stores the force to put it back into battery. So it's just like a piston, air and oil. When the gun fires, it compresses the oil, which compresses the air, which that is what takes up the shock of it and transfers that energy. Once the full force of recoil is done, the gun goes back into battery in the housing, the slide, and this allows air pressure. Once that full force is extended, this takes over and presses back on the oil as the pressure balances out. So it looks like this, but it's actually a fluid and air system that keeps the gun in battery, which is why when you guys see cartoons or something and the gun fires and the ship rolls, no, that's cannons. These are rifle guns with a recoil system. This absorbs and disperses it back in. The pressure wave, when the gun fires, all right, the gun fires the powder. It lights, it's ignited and it burns evenly, causing a pressure wave and push it out. It's not an explosion. So don't look at the sign. It lies. It's not an explosion. You never want an explosion in the chamber. All a gun is a controlled chemical reaction. Started with a spark from a primer, burns evenly, okay, into the gun. So now you have the makeup of the gun, and you can see these guns are all the same, by the way. The housing is what changed, and the alignment of this is gas ejection air to blow out residue from the previous gun chute, which automatically trips, and the gun captain can actually activate it to do it. The breech block below us, all right, as you can see, it is a rotating stepped breech block. As it comes up, it is a air assist, because there's no way you're manhandling this up. The gun captain has 2 foot levers over there, which allows him to activate the air to assist to close the breech. As it comes up, it rotates and steps of right-handed threaded stepped breech. So as it comes in, you can see these step grooves. It'll come in and turn and rotate. As it does, it interlocks and seals the breech. The mushroom here, which you see, this rounded area here, usually has a gasket in it. That's basically a giant O-ring. This, when the gun fires, the mushroom compresses and seals it, keeps all the gases inside there so they don't come out, as well as the breech holding it with all these teeth in it. There's a mechanical lever on the bottom, which as the breech comes up, that lever comes to a point where the gun captain can grab it, and he will push and lock it up. It's an air assist. So that breech comes up, closes up, and seals the breech and locks it in. And the safety latch responds, and the gun is ready to fire, because now the gun firing lock that's in here, we'll have to show you a picture of that. There's one down below. We'll stick it in the video here, and you can see how it operates, because that firing lock acts as a electrical and percussion. So this gun can be fired remotely, electrically, and percussion locally when the gun captain, if he has to, we have bad circuit, primer goes bad, he can actually change it out and use a lanyard and fire the gun, just like you would an old-fashioned cannon.
Yeah, there are more than a dozen places from which the gun can be fired. So you can think of the recoil and counter-recoil mechanism as being kind of like the hydraulic shock absorber on the wheel of your car. It basically functions in the same way. We might also mention that this latch here is called a salvo latch, which is a very important safety feature. Basically, when the gun captain locks the handle into this latch, he cannot pull it back out again until the gun fires. So he can't open the breech if, for example, you might have a hang fire going on or a misfire. Until the gun fires and comes back into battery, he cannot open this latch. And that's a very, very important safety feature.
Stupid latch prevents you from being stupid. It can be bypassed in emergency if you have to evacuate the chamber, but that you would have to physically go out of your way to do it. It automatically prevents accidents, because if the gun partially fires or not, it will not. You have to have a complete burn firing and recoil of the gun. So that's the safety features there on that. Firing lock sits in and locks into the bottom of the breech, because this mushroom is set up, and we call it a mushroom because it tapers down into a long stem that goes through the center of the breech block. All right, so now we have another look at the mushroom here. As you can see, the gasket is not in here. This is the donut. We nicknamed it the donut because it is basically a donut, and the stem comes down and the mushroom's out. So it sits, and the donut is a seal. So when it's compressed from the firing, it's a hard rubber. It's this, not gonna just whittle away. And it's specially made for it. So it comes through the stem, and you can see the little squib, that cable coming off of it. That's the electrical hookup that goes to the firing lock. The firing lock's not on here because you don't see it. It's put away. You don't put them on the gun unless you need them and ready for combat. You keep them oil cleaned and well functioning. And they simply half turn in, lock in the position. It fires a 30-aught 6 basic slug, a primer that goes in, and that's operated through either percussion and or electrical is mostly how it goes, because you can fire remotely from multiple ports on this ship. I think we figured out it was like 18 different points in this turret you can fire the gun. And then there's one of them being percussion from the gun captain, turret officer's booth, the sight setter stations, each gun individual elevation, the train can do it in sequence. The turret officer's booth we'll get into later, that gives you the whole dynamic of it.
And that doesn't even count all the places in which you can fire it in the fire control system, including the main battery plotting room from the stable vertical. You can fire it directly from any of the directors.
Or the gun turrets, any other
You
gun
can
turrets.
fire it from the conning tower and the gunnery officer's position.
Right. It's quite that. Redundancy is what makes the Navy go
Is
round, because you
unbelievable in these ships.
and you have to. It's a battleship. It's made to slug it out, not pussyfoot around. So, as you see, this is the full gun. Now, we have it set up in this position. This is the spanning cradle, spanning tray. The cradle is this part of it. The spanning tray is here. It pivots. It operates hydraulically to load the projectiles as well as the powder bags. So as we go into explaining and how this works and setup this is the cradle. It comes in from this 5-degree elevation position and comes up to basically past 90. I think it's like 95 degrees because it's sloped back. And the projectiles come up from down below. So if you look over here, you can see the hoist that brings up your projectiles. And the projectiles come up to here. As you can see, this pivots on its trunnions and lines up. And that slotted area is the actual track for the hydraulic piston that brings up the ammo in the hoist. That's a rack and pinion system that ratchets the projectiles up with moving powers that pop out so the projectile can be lowered. So it's got to be through a stroke, come all the way up past it, and then as it pops out, it rests back down, goes down, picks them up, and it ratchets it up in sequence. So you guys who play World of Warships, if you're looking at that quick change time, in real life, forget about it. What you do is you'd fire everything out and reload behind it what you needed. So that's why in a pre-mission brief, gunnery officers and gun crews, they go through the process and figure out what we're firing, what mission, where, and set up the hoist with the ammunition needed. Either armor piercing, high capacity, or a mix of it, however they want to. And the turrets are set up differently. It's a whole evolution in its own that requires more than we want to go through here. So that's where your projectiles come up when the tray is folded against the cradle and the cradle is up. This handle you see here is to keep the projectile in the cradle once it passes out of the hoist tube. And that is pushed out of the way. When the projectile comes up, pops back in. Projectile is lowered in the hoist, and it rests down on there and comes off the powell, and it goes all the way down through its retraction to go down to the next projectile. So it's up in there in a vertical position. The rammer is the rammer head and bike chain you see here. That's back inside. The tray comes up like this and folds back because, again, it's only loading 5 degrees elevation, no other. This is it. Once it fires, the gun automatically comes right back up, snaps back up to the loading position, 5 degrees. Gun captain is going to be here. So we'll go through the process, and this is the powder hoist in the door. This goes to the powder hoist in here. So the gun room is the life of the gun. There's a lot going on here, and we'll get to it. So I just wanted to show you where everything is. So as we can see, John is going to go through the positions with me here. The gun captain, when he comes in to load the gun initially, he'll step out on the gun platform, which is recessed below the gun, so when it fires, it doesn't hit the platform, but he's not going to be on it. Gun captain would step up, hit the safety salvo latch, drop the breech, ratchet it down, and it'll free fall on its own, come down, When it comes down, he pushes it out of the way with the assistance because it's spring as well as air assist. Air assist to come back up, spring to let it buffer down. So when it comes down, it sets in. He looks, he examines the breech, he's looking in, he's gonna clean with a sleeve. He has a cotton sleeve, like lambskin, and he's cleaning the mushroom top of it here to make sure that it's clear, and he's looking in the gun shaker to make sure it's clear, there's no burning embers at any time from previous shots. The first time, he's gonna look for GP. He has a point of reference the first time, he sees it's clean, he understands. Now, once he's got that, all right, he can shut the air pressure off, reach over, knock it off, so that way it doesn't interfere with him loading. He'll look over here. The gun captain now has his team. He has the cradle operator and the rammerman in this position here. He also has a primerman down here. Now the cradleman he's got to look at because now he has a projectile fully up into the hoist. After the gun captain, you got the cradle operator. Now the cradle operator operates the cradle by that lever there, either retracting it or depressing it out where it scopes in and folds into the breech just right and level and snaps in when he's all set because he has a projectile. Then he uses hand signals because you got to remember, you got hydraulics, electrical, ventilation, all that's running. So he's gonna using hand signals, and everyone is watching the gun captain. So he steps down in that position. He's checked. He opened the breech, checked it, shut off the gas eject there. He looks at the cradleman. He drops the spanning tray. It goes into the breech. Once it's in the breech, he'll look over to the rammerman.
Now, I, as the cradle man,
Would stay there.
after getting the signal, will then move down, right, next to the gun captain.
Right. Well, after the projectile is rammed. The ramming of the projectile first, in case there's any problem, he has to stand by.
I'm standing by until the projectile is rammed,
Right.
then I
Once it's
move
rammed,
down
then
to
rammer
assist the
comes
gun
back,
captain.
Then he steps down because now you got to bring powder. So what he's going to do is he's going to look over, and for the sake of speed, I'll come over and show you. So the rammerman is sitting here. Now the rammer is a throttle operated. All right, it's a simple throttle, either ram or retract, and you do it with speed. This opens and ports hydraulic valves in the rammer to either increase or decrease the speed. So you can go at a snail pace or you can slam it and it's going to ram the projectile. You want to ram that projectile in so that way it slams into the rifling. So that rotating band is engaging into the beginning of your liner, the rifling. All 96 surfaces are going to slam into that brass ring, the rotating band, around the projectile and lock it in. Once that's done, and it stops, and this will shake a little bit, he'll yank it all the way back, slam it back in. Once that's done, all right, he's going to hold off. He's watching the gun captain, all right? And then what's going to happen is the cradle operator will step down with the gun captain. Now, once the projectile is done and set, he looks inside the hoist here. This is the powder hoist. This is a 75 horsepower motor. It's the biggest horsepower motor. Everything else is 60 horse. Weird. But the powder car goes all the way down, 5 decks down to the powder flats and loaded up with 6 bags. It takes 6 bags to fire this gun, 6 90-pound bags. So when he comes up here, he looks at the cradle operator, the powder hoist operator, and he points to him because he has to open the door. Because it's hydraulically controlled, some of the valves are missing. They went to the Iowas, another story, another time. But he would operate it, and what happens is the door, these dogs turn up and out of the way, and then he hydraulically activates the piston, and the door comes down and acts like a ramp. So when you look in there, there's 2 levels to the car, 3 bags each. So what he does is the first round, he dumps 3 bags. After the gun captain looks at him, bring me the powder. And what happens is he dumps it on a lever in there that pivots the tray, and they roll out. And the 2 operators here, the cradleman and the gun captain, guide the bags so they don't jump out, and they'll roll in. These are silk bags, remember. All right? So they come in down, land in here. What happens is 1 bag's pushed this way, the other bags are pushed that way, or vice versa, 2 bags this way. You have to clear this. So it's, if I remember right, it's push this bag forward, and if you get the 2 bags up and then 1 bag out of the way,
Yeah,
because this
push
tray
2
has to
forward
be
and 1 back.
come down, okay? So you have to clear it for the next set. So once they're down and set, he looks at them again, and he says, you know, drop it to the next tray, drops the car down, bring the ammo, the powder bags down, and he dumps that lower tray. They guide him in to prevent him from jumping out and line them up. When he does that, he looks back at the the powder car operator, tells him, close it up, closes the door, sends the car back down. So that way you can get the next powder bag set up. As he does that, he grabs what's called lead foil packets. Now the lead foil packets he'll grab probably from over there, he'll step them in between every 2 bags. And this, what lead foil does is that when the rotating band is engaged and when the gun fires, it starts cutting into the band. And what you have is a leftover filings. These at high pressure and temperature tend to start to bond to the rifling inside. You don't want that. The lead foil acts like sandblasting grit. When it fires, and when this gun fires and it starts burning, it disintegrates the lead and it atomizes it. It breaks it up to the point where it acts like sandblasting grit, and eats away at the copper because it's a less dense.
It also
lead.
tends to melt and alloy with the copper, which makes it easier to get it out of the bore.
And it doesn't bond to the chromium liner. So it acts as a cleaning agent, Mr. Clean. So he sticks them in there, and once that's done, he'll look at the rammer, because the rammer's sitting there watching the whole escapade. His eyes are glued. And he's going to tell him when he's all set, and he'll use his thumb, because when he does the projectile, he's using the thumb, slam it, and the cradle rammer rams it in fast using the thumb signal, like boom, in, slam it, done. When it comes to the powder now, he's going to look at him and say, he looks at his thumb and he starts doing this slowly. Because what he's doing is using slow throttle, slowly pushing it back, because you don't want to slam this thing in there. That's obnoxious. So he's going to slowly ram it in, watching the gun captain as well as the powder, because he's doing 2 things at once here, because if something goes wrong and he catches it, he can stop. So once he gets it to a certain point up here into the chamber where the breech is going to suddenly stop, he'll stop, and the gun captain will give him a thumbs back, and right up in here, this edge, right up into there. And that's about where he stops, because the breech will come up and press up against it, because you don't want to over-ram it. So once that's done, he retracts it, tells him, he slams it back in, because the cradle operator now stepped back. And he's going to tell him to pull the tray back, all right? Pull the cradle and tray back. So he'll push the lever, and it'll hydraulically pull up. He'll wait till it seats back in, because it has to mechanically lock back in for the interlock switch to tell the gun is clear to go, because that's got to be clear. And then when the gun captain's ready, because now he has to go down, he hits the foot pedal down on below. Over here, there's 2 foot pedals. There's 2 little foot levers, and he'll hit that with his foot, pivot on one, press on the other. Air assist will help bring the breech up, and then the lever will come up to a grabbing area where it won't press the breech in there, but he'll be able to mechanically, through linkages, bring up the breech into and lock into position, because as it comes up and in, it starts to rotate and lock in. Once it's right hand step threaded and rotating, it locks in and set. Once he's done, he latches that in against the saddle latch. He steps back off the gun, because, wait a minute, one important part here. What makes this go off? The primer. Okay, we've come down here into the Primerman's platform so you get a different perspective that most people don't get a chance to see. Now, the Primerman sits back in here like this, back behind the red line, because the red line is where the gun will fire back to, all right? So this is the hydraulic fluid for the spanning tray. So he's down here in this cramped little space. When the gun goes to load position, he steps out here, like this, and the firing lock is tagged in right here. So the firing lock, as you can see, is notched here. That way it goes in and then turns and locks in. This is a squib, which provides electrical current for the firing circuit. You can see the lever, that's the mechanical assist to close the breech. And there's the platform for the gun cap. So the whole gun will slide back 4 feet over that. So this whole gun pit you're looking down into is the elevation, because the gun can fire up to 45 degrees elevation. So it has to recoil in that space as well. So that's why it's clear down there, so the gun pivots. There's the elevation screw, and there's the B end that actually has the housing for the elevation screw to go down into. And then the hydraulics, the A end, and the motor are below the pan deck. It's called the pan deck, the gun pit. All right, and you can see there's a small circular area there. That is the locking point for the gun to go into at what's called the bristle position, when the gun is at its position of 35 degrees. It makes the guns look ominous, but it also is a locking pin that you can screw into it to hold the gun in position in heavy seas so it doesn't damage the gears. You see ventilation that comes in here. The gun pit is avoided areas up forward that can't be used. There's a buffing piston at rest against there, so the gun, when it elevates down to its maximum elevation, and it rests against it so it doesn't press into the machinery. It's a physical block. But the Primerman's standing down here, and he's watching everything going on. So the Primerman's reaching up here, opening the firing lock, taking out the cartridge. He either puts it in his pocket or puts it aside. And he puts a new one from a bandolier he has and locks it into the firing lock. Once the firing lock is set, he locks it in. The gun captain's right here. He'll look at him, give him a thumbs up. So that way, when he looks at him to confirm, when he steps back and the breech is closed, gives him a thumbs up, and he steps back out of the way, so the Primerman does not become hamburger helper. He steps out of the way, so when the gun's ready to fire, you can also do the thumbs up from here. I'm clear, I'm set, the primer's good to go, he's set to go. So as he's doing, you're firing this gun now every 30 seconds, 20 to 30 seconds. So he's got to come out back and forth, back and forth. He uses up his primers. What am I going to do? He has a box right here, ready service primers. So he opens it up. There'll be cans in here with the primers. He'll restock his bandolier as needed. When he's not using it, he closes it up and latches it back in. So it's got a gasket to prevent it from, whoops, coming undone. And a physical latch to hold it close if he wants to, or a lock, depending if it's a ready service ammunition. So now, this is how the primer operates. So when the gun fires, he's going to get the crap scared out of him that this 90-ton barrel is come screaming at him. Fires and goes back into battery. So that's the Primerman's position, and down in here. So we're going to go back up to the upper part of the gun room and look that over. So we're back up here in the gun room. I'm on the maintenance platform. John's over here in the gun cabin. So you've gone through the Primerman, the gun captain, cradle operator, the rammer, and the powder hoist operator. Now, the other thing too is on misfires and hang fires. We're gonna just briefly cover that. The misfire is when a gun does not fire, something's wrong. It's totally wrong. You can't. A hang fire is when it fires. You fire, it goes click, then suddenly boom, goes off a few seconds later. Within 10 to 30 seconds, it's considered a hang fire, and a delay within 10 seconds. But with that, when you go into misfire, then you have to change out the primer, which turns into a whole nother evolution, because if you open the firing lock with the gunner, he has a firing stick, which he uses to reach out and unlatch and pull the primer out and reinsert another primer. Now that stick is right over here, and I will grab that real quick. This is for the gun captain. The Iowa, when they took all the spare parts for the recommissioned battleships, they missed this. This was stashed in a little hiding place. Now this is the stick for the gun captain to reach out, and he'll unlatch the firing lock, bring down the hammer with this, and it's sitting in a half moon recess on the edge of the primer, the lip of it, he'll reach in, pull it out, to pull it back to examine it, because he has to look at it to see if the primer was stuck. If the primer was struck and the primer's bad, he'll replace it, put it in here. He's not going to step out on that platform, because if this thing goes off, he'd be hamburger helper. So he reaches out with the stick, hence his 4 feet here. He'll 3 feet, and the extra foot is his arms. He'll reach out, put the primer in the lip here, insert it, twist it off, raise it with the ball, close the latch, and lock it in place. And the lanyard to be there, he could either have it fired electrically, or he can reach, pull the lanyard with this to him and yank it and pull it and fire the gun and clear it. The reason why he holds it like this, because if the gun accidentally finally goes off with that breath of air from opening the firing primer, it'll fire and throw it backwards, and he won't impale himself or anybody else against the bulkhead. So he'll be down here, it'll go back in here, shatter, and be deflected all back there and not hurt anybody. The gun will go back into battery, repeat the cycle, hey, give me another stick. But that would be what would happen if things went wrong. But again, if everything goes right, the gun goes off, the process repeats, the cycle begins again. So when you're looking at your powder bags, 90 pounds, that's your cellulose. 10 pounds of black powder spread evenly. So when it does ignite from the primer, it ignites it. It flash burns from the black powder, which creates a flash fire evenly in milliseconds, and it slowly burns the bag to ignite the next one, then the next one, all in milliseconds, running through and causing a pressure wave that forces the gun into the rifling and sends it to its target at 2,300 feet per second. Thank you. Hence that, or for that's the
armor piercing shell.
The high capacity is
2635.
2635. Thank you. Numbers. A lot of numbers. So that's how this works. This is the gun room of the 16-inch gun turret, turret 3, USS Massachusetts. Gun number 303. And there's additional numbers down here for the actual liner and the gun. So, John, I think we got it covered.
Just a couple of things we might want to mention here.
There you go.
In terms of the rammer's speed to ram the projectile is 14 feet per second, which absolutely slams it into the rifling, but that's critical to get it to stick into the forcing cone in the rifling, because the gun is going to elevate. And if that projectile falls back against the powder bags, that's going to cause all kinds of problems, not the least of which would be severe loss of accuracy.
Right. We don't want that to happen.
Very important that the powder be rammed very, very slowly. Black powder is sensitive to both shock and heat, and if it's rammed too fast, there's the chances that you may get a friction compression, and it could go off when the breech is open, which would be an absolute disaster. One last thing is, once the breech is locked, the gun captain does not stand up here, because he'd be hit by the gun recoiling.
He steps up with the cradle right there, and then he reaches over and he hits the safety latch, which is missing.
There's a switch up here, ready switch, and he can either step out onto the platform or be back here with the cradle operator. And when he does that, the fire control system at that point automatically elevates the gun to the correct elevation for firing. And if it's in the automatic firing mode, at that point, as soon as it reaches the right elevation, the gun goes off, fires, recoils and counter recoils, and then automatically lowers itself down to the 5-degree loading angle, all automatically.
Right. And it will return once the gun captain hits that ready switch up here. The gun will automatically go back to a receiving signal. It won't have to hunt. It'll go right to it, because it already knows where it's going, and it'll go right to it. So the other thing was the rod here. Just real quick, this wooden rod you may see in the picture here, that is a rammer. That is a 16-inch rammer. Why would you have that when you have a hydraulic system? Well, if the hydraulic system fails and this dude's shooting at you, how are you going to get the stuff done? You're going to manually load that puppy. So all 4 people are going to be in here slamming that projectile in there as best they can, and then slowly pushing the bags up in there and getting them set, because a slower fire rate is better than no firing rate at all. It's a manual backup in case you lose the rammer or there's damage. So that was another thing that was stashed back in the turret where no one found it, thank God, because if they would have found it, the Navy would have took it on us and we wouldn't have no example of and proof that there was a manual rammer for that, because you can see the head on that thing is huge. But we'll cover the loading training system in another video, and we'll explain the weight down below and the brackets and everything else. That's it for the gun room, I think. We got it pretty well covered. A lot of information, a lot of detail, but it is a complex system. It's not that easily to go through it. But you can look online, see the Navy training video from 1955. It'll run you through this cycle. And we play it on display at the monitor here so people can understand without us having to be here all the time. I want to thank you for your time. And if you like what you saw, please like, share, subscribe. And if you're interested in becoming part of the volunteer crew and working here, please contact the Battleship Cove and let us know, and you can work with us, and we try to get these things restored. And there's upkeep and maintenance even as a museum ship that needs to be done. As you can see, we got to clean up the breech a little bit more, but we'll get it back up and cleaned, and at time we'll slowly improve things and get you in here. So thank you again. I'm your host, GM1 Tom Lowney, retired USN, Dr. John Scholes. Thank you again. Appreciate all
My pleasure. We might also want to mention that this gun crew has to be totally well coordinated, and they have to train very intensively to be able to do this.
Training is very key and
And
important.
when they do get trained to that level, the normal rate of fire for this gun is 2 rounds per minute. So in 30 seconds, they accomplish all of these steps,
Right.
including the automatic lowering of the barrel and elevating of the barrel, and all of the loading steps that you see. And in an emergency, for short periods of time, crew can even do the loading sequence and firing sequence in 20 seconds.
And that happened with a buddy of mine on Lebanon against the Syrian artillery positions during that conflict back in the 80s. Billy Owens, you out there? Good job, man. He took over for the gun captain. He said they got it down to 20 seconds per round, because they were just humping this stuff, getting it out there. When someone shoots at you, motivation is key. But again, thank you. Appreciate it. And come back, see us. Come here. You can come step in, look at the gun, and see this for yourself. Hope to see you there. Thanks again for your time. Take care.